Hey everybody, welcome to lab number 5 for AP1. Today is our first lab about connective tissue. So we did epithelial tissue the last two videos. Today is first lab about connective tissue. Connective tissue is going to do a lot of jobs. Obviously connective tissue is going to connect things. It's going to join things. It's also going to provide a lot of support. It is going to provide a great deal of protection. It is going to be involved in insulating. It is going to be involved in transport. And this list could go on. Connective tissue does a variety of functions. And as such, it has a variety of structures involved. We got a little flow chart of some major connective tissue types here that are going to hit these myriad jobs that we have. So in terms of connective tissue, we can divide it up into three big groups. There's supporting connective tissue, which is bone and cartilage. We're going to cover those guys in the next video. Obviously, bone and cartilage are going to support your body weight, support your organs, etc. There is a liquid connective tissue, which is blood, which is of course involved in transport, which we're going to cover blood in good old anatomy and physiology too. And then there's connective tissue proper. And connective tissue proper is actually divided into two types, loose and dense. Now this distinction is dependent on the fibers. So one of the things that characterize is connective tissues in general. Connective tissues have lots of fibers. And the fibers can either be packed together really tightly. It's going to be dense connective tissue if they're packed together tightly, or the fibers can be packed together loosely, and that's loose connective tissue. Loose connective tissue, we're doing that today. We're going to look at two types. There's areolar and adipose. Dense connective tissue, two types of them. There's dense regular and dense irregular. So those are the four connective tissues we are doing today. We're going to do all these connective tissues, these 6 in AP1, and then this guy, blood, in AP2. And like I said here, one of the common things for connective tissue is it has lots of fibers. Another way of saying this, so i.e., it has lots of ECM. And you're wondering, what does ECM stand for? Well, ECM stands for extracellular matrix. So lots of stuff outside of the cells. So that is a characteristic of connective tissue, to be mostly made of ECM, which is extracellular matrix. Now, not every connective tissue is going to live up to this, but most of them do. Most of them are dominated by extracellular matrix, which includes fibers, which is helpful in our designation of some connective tissues. All right, there is another commonality to connective tissues. They all have the same embryonic origin. So if you go back far enough in time, early enough in development, all your connective tissues arose from the same initial embryonic tissue. Okay? The same embryonic origin. I was saying tissue and I started to write tissue, but I wanted to write origin. The same embryonic origin. Okay. Let's start working on connective tissues. So like I said, today we're going to do connective tissue proper. We're going to look at the two loose ones. Then we're going to look at the two dense ones. We're starting with areolar connective tissue. So let's go ahead and look at some areolar connective tissue and start talking about it. This is areolar connective tissue. All right, of course I see cells here, right? If I have a tissue, good bet I'm going to have cells. I see lots of cells. I'm putting dots on their nuclei here. I see lots of cells. But notice the cells are not tightly packed together. The cells are kind of, separate. They're kind of spread out. There's space between them. That's what the word areola refers to, the space between cells, okay? And so because there are not a great density of cells here, it makes sense that we're composed of stuff outside of cells, so mostly extracellular matrix. And I can see fibers here. I can see fibers. Let's see. All of these lines here, these little skinny lines, these are fibers called elastic fibers. Darker, purpler, skinny lines are elastic fibers. If something is elastic, it can stretch and it can recoil. Okay? So it can change shape and then go back to its original shape. So lots of elastic fibers here. So many elastic fibers here. And by the way, if you see elastic fibers, that is your clue that you are looking at areolar connective tissue. Now, elastic fibers are not the only fiber we've got here. I've got some other bigger, blurrier, more pinkish fibers. So like, for example, there is a fiber, a pinkish fiber right here. Do you see that guy? There is a pinkish fiber over here. There's one right here. There's one right here. These pinkish fibers are collagen fibers. Collagen fibers are very strong. They have what's called high tensile strength. That means you can pull on them and it's hard to break them. So we got elastic fibers and collagen fibers here. And they, of course, are part of our extracellular matrix, which is our primary component of this tissue. Now, those fibers had to be made by some sort of cell. And I've got a very lovely fibroblast here. Fibroblast. Of course, in that word, what does fibro refer to? Fibro refers to fiber. That's pretty obvious and straightforward. Blast, on the other hand, I like to think of blast as meaning make. It literally means sprout, but I like to think of it as being make. This is going to be good. We're going to see this suffix in many words. So a fibroblast is a fiber maker. All right, cool. Let's keep on going. Let's look at some more areolar connective tissue. How are you going to recognize this is areolar connective tissue? You are going to totally focus in on this skinny line right here, this skinny line here, this skinny line here. What are these guys? These guys are elastic fibers. Once I see them, I know I've got areolar tissue. Now, I do also have collagen fibers. Look at this nice big collagen fiber right here. I like this one a lot. I like this one a lot as well. Collagen fibers, of course, giving that tissue its high tensile strength. Elastic fibers giving it its ability to stretch and then snap back. If I've got fibers, I've got to have fibroblasts. And I see some fibroblasts in here, literally my fiber makers. I also, though, in this tissue picture, I see another cell. This cell is called a mast cell. Notice how many little dots it has. Some of them have even spilled out. Those dots are granules. Those granules contain a pair of chemicals, histamine, heparin. These are inflammatory chemicals. Inflammation, by the way, 99% of the time, it is a good thing. It is part of our healing process. Now, mast cells are abundant in areolar connective tissue. So are some other cells that you might have met in lecture called macrophages. I don't see one here. Those are our big eater cells, also giving us immune protection. Now, to make sense of the presence of these cells, we got to understand that areolar connective tissue, one of its locations is it always underlies and supports epithelial tissue. So it underlies and supports epithelial tissue. Well, you should know that epithelial tissue is a covering and a lining. And as such, epithelial tissue is exposed to external environments. Like your skin, right? Your skin surface is epithelial tissue. The lining of your oral cavity, the lining of your nasal cavity, lining of your trachea, lining of your urethra, stomach, vagina, intestines, esophagus, urinary bladder, all epithelial tissue, those linings. And what can happen to linings that are exposed to external environments? They can get damaged. If there's damage, well, I'm going to need macrophages to eat up any invaders and debris. I'm going to need mast cells to initiate inflammation. And to prevent damage, I'm going to want collagen fibers for strength. Elastic fibers so the tissue can be deformed, can be squished, and it can regain its original shape. All right, let's give you a little test here. Go ahead and point out elastic fibers, collagen fibers, fibroblasts, and mast cells in this picture here. Okay, we've got one down. Let's do some more tissues here. Our next tissue is also a loose connective tissue. It is adipose tissue. Adipose tissue is our better word for fat tissue. Now, it is unique in that it is mostly cells. Earlier we said generally connective tissues are primarily composed of extracellular matrix. Adipose tissue is unique in that it is mostly cells. The cells are called adipocytes. The cells are called adipocytes. And I see lots of adipocytes here. I'm going to put a dot in the middle of lots of different adipocytes here. Every one of these empty looking circles is an adipocyte, a fat cell. We're not going to call it a fat cell, we're going to call it an adipocyte. And the adipocytes, the space within them, it's actually not empty in reality. It's when you look at the prepared slide, it ends up being empty. But in the human body, the spaces here would be occupied by stored fat. Okay? In fact, even the nucleus is like shoved off to the side. So it's not in the center, it's eccentric out of the center. And that leaves us more room to store fat. If we are storing fat, we are storing energy, but also adipose tissue, by being deep to our skin, gives us thermal insulation. By being around organs like the kidneys, gives us shock absorption too. So couple big functions of adipose tissue there. Let's take a look at another slide. Can you find adipocytes here? Can you find their storage space for fat? Can you find their eccentric nuclei? Find all those things for me, please. And that one was quick, wasn't it? We are done another tissue. We've now done both loose tissues, which means we can do our dense tissues. And our first dense tissue is this tissue called dense regular connective tissue. We use the word dense because the collagen fibers are tightly packed. So in this picture here, all the pink here, there are pink lines running vertically, And those are collagen fibers, and they're all packed together tightly. That's why we use the word dense. We use the word regular because all the fibers in this picture are going in the same, vertical direction here. So they're parallel to one another. This is going to give us a ton of strength along this direction. Lots of collagen arranged in the same way makes this tissue really, really strong. And this tissue is found in ligaments. Ligaments are going to connect bone to bone. So later on, we'll name some ligaments when we do the skeletal system. Ligaments connect bone to bone. They're also found in tendons. Tendons are going to connect, that says connect, bone to muscle. Connect bone to muscle. We'll name some tendons later on as well. So tendons and ligaments, both structures need to be super strong. They are super strong because they're dense, regular connective tissue. Dense meaning lots of collagen, and collagen, of course, has high tensile strength. Regular means the collagen fibers are parallel, which it just maximizes our strength along that particular orientation. So we saw the collagen fibers here. Of course, notice that we have multiple fibroblasts as well. Multiple fibroblasts as well. All right. Here's another one for your viewing pleasure. Can you find collagen fibers? Can you see their direction of orientation? And can you find fibroblasts? So go ahead and knock those three things out. And with that, we are done with tissue number 3. We've only got one more to do. Might be the shortest video of all time. We now got dense, irregular connective tissue. Again, dense means there's lots of collagen. Notice we have just a lot of pink here. But irregular means the fibers are not arranged in a predictable parallel pattern, but they're arranged in an irregular way. They're disorganized. They're going in multiple directions. This is not going to make us super strong in one direction, but rather strong in many directions. This tissue is abundant in the deep reticular dermis of your skin. That's the deep part of your dermis, the reticular dermis. It's actually the thickest part of your skin. This tissue gives your skin its strength and durability. So lots of collagen fibers here. I see the pinkness. And if I have collagen fibers, I know I am going to have fibroblasts as well. All right, excellent. Let's look at another picture of this guy. Can you find collagen? Bundles of collagen, really. And then can you find fibroblasts? Go ahead and do that. And I want to show you some skin pictures too. Here is some thin skin, which of course recall I've got thin skin all over my body except for my palmar and plantar regions. Got my epidermis up here, stratified squamous epithelium. And then I've got my dermis. The red and blue is the dermis. Remember, the red part would be my papillary dermis because I've got these bumps extending upward. Then the deeper part with the pink collagen bundles is the reticular dermis. And I see a few little fibroblasts in there as well. All right, good stuff, good stuff. Got some more here. I don't really like the coloring of this one. It's like it's kind of faded, but I like that I can see my layers here. I can see the bundles of collagen. They just don't look as beautifully pink as I would like. This is not a bad one over here. Got my stratified squamous epithelium, my papillary dermis with its papillae, its bumps, and my reticular dermis. And I can totally see the collagen bundles down here, how they're going in different directions. And I can see fibroblasts as well. And that, everybody, is lab number 5. We are done and out in under 20 minutes. How awesome is that? I love it. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.